This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Kojo. In our headlines, those are teacher unions declare strike over the cost of living allowance.
We have decided to embark on a strike action effective today.
A nation racing against time to avoid an economic meltdown. Bank of Ghana needs about at least $3 billion to shore up the cedi.
What do you need to shore up your buffers, for example, in the central bank? You're looking somewhere around about $3 billion. Parliament has to approve for us to receive so that the cedi does not depreciate further.
Also coming up, looming water shortage in Accra and part of the central region as encroachers take over the green belt, protecting the Weija Lake and the Weija treatment plant.
I'm talking about encroachment. It has been for decades. Ghana Water at some point moved in for demolition, and same people have come in there again. I have also moved in there for some demolition some years back.
Hello again, thanks for choosing us. Now, Ghana's public education system has been knocked down onto its knees as workers in the field declare an indefinite strike over government's failure to pay up their cost of living allowance. The workers, made up of TEWU, NAT, NAGRAT and CCT, have for months now been demanding that 20% of their basic salary be paid to them as COLA. Now, this to help mitigate the impact of the rising cost of living on them. But after June 30 deadline was exhausted, the workers have withdrawn their services both in and out of the classroom. Nkoranza reports.
These are angry workers in Ghana's educational sector who say they will no longer endure the current harsh economic conditions without any cushioning from government. They want to be paid a cost of living allowance of up to 20% of their basic salary, a request government has failed to meet. To press home their demands, they say they are compelled to abandon their post. Thomas Musa is General Secretary of Ghana National Association of Teachers.
By the high level of inflation in the country, the incessant skyrocketing prices of fuel, goods and services have eroded the already woefully so-called salary increase granted us. We are very much appalled at the inaptitude of the government relative to our call for COLA. We have severally on different platforms and times made this call which fell on deaf ears of government. We have decided to embark on a strike action effective today.
Behind these demands are real people who took up the teaching job to make impact. Many of them, like Weija Sapabil, are regretting.
Everybody is struggling. Now it is better. 2 months ago, I was buying 1 tomatoes for 2 cedi. So if I prepare banku and I want to grind pepper to eat, I have to go and buy 1 tomatoes for 2 cedi. I regret taking to teaching. I have classmates. After SSS, they didn't continue their education. They went straight to the army. One of them is a WO right now, as I speak. And he's taking 8,000 plus at the end of every month. I have gone to training college, I've gone to the university, done my first degree, done my master's, and I'm still roaming around 2,000. How do I survive? They call for old school meeting. I don't go. The living conditions are 2 different things. When they are come, they are excited, they are talking, and maybe they bring along food and drinks and they are chilling, more relaxed. I can be there, but I won't be relaxed. So I don't even go at all.
Another teacher at the Akrabong Basic School in the Central Region, Amos Amwako, feels neglected by the state, which contracted him to help build future leaders.
I sometimes run my household on loans, and it is not a wise way of living. Because if you are going to take a financial facility or a loan, it should be used for developmental activity. But you go for loans and then you spend it at home. then you pay interest on it, then your existence is not even profitable. You don't even feel like you are even existing. If a better job comes, why not? Because a graduate teacher taking home around 2,000. When you do second degree, GES will tell you that they don't recognize it. And the cost of training, courses at the universities are very expensive now. Somebody goes through to do a second degree, and you tell the person that the second degree is not needed at the pre-tertiary level. So then the cost of entering into that course you will not get any productivity out of it. So if a better job comes, why not?
Like Weija and Amos, all workers in the educational sector in NAT, TEU, CCT, and NAGRAT have been called to proceed on strike, effective immediately.
By this, we are informing the general public that we are withdrawing all our services in all the pre-tertiary education space. Yes. These include teaching and non-teaching staff.
The only thing that will get them back to work is the payment of their COLA. Manuel Cranting, Joy News, Accra.
Ofosu Asamoah is the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, and he joins us on the phone. Thank you very much, Mr. Asamoah, for joining us on Joy News Prime. Now, the unions have been on a campaign for about weeks now, demanding the payment of this allowance. Have their concerns come to your attention at all? And how are you addressing them at your level?
Formally, they have not written to us, but we've heard of it, just like any other Ghanaian in the that they're calling for cost of living allowance, and they are calling on the government and their employers to grant them same. That much we have heard of it. It was until this late afternoon that we heard of the declaration of the strike. By a press conference, we have received a copy of their press release. That's after they had declared a strike. And we have accordingly, begun working on it.
At this point, what would you say about the legality of the actions they've taken?
Well, calling for cost of living allowance from their employers because things are hard. The Labour Commission, we sympathize with them, and we even sympathize with ourselves. We all go to the same market. But then, any consequent action arising therefrom we want to take as a result of the difficulty we are going through should be within the space of law and time. So we have written to the ministry and, for that matter, government, to quickly engage them and try to solve the issue and look at their request. And they have also been advised to rescind their decision to go on the strike. In as much as we agree that they have the consent, we urge them to rescind their decision to go on strike.
Well, the unions, they are warning already, Mr. Asamoah, that they won't yield to any pressure to return to the classroom unless COLA is paid.
Yes, we haven't put any pressure on them. We have written to them advising them. That is why I started by saying that. In as much as we sympathize with them, of course, living standards are common knowledge to everybody, including you and I who live in Ghana and we are attending to the same market. So we sympathize with them. We are aware of the situation. But then, what we as a commission are concerned with is, yes, strike police are very legal. As a worker, they have the right to declare a strike to pursue their demands, except that there are steps to the declaration of the strike. That is what we want to advise them to go and operate within the law.
And so if your advice is not heeded, what happens, Mr. Asamoah?
Oh, why would you want to think if it's not heeded? But what about if it is heeded?
Well, they've made it clear that they are not going back. They are not rescinding on this decision.
We will try to. It's a matter of engaging them. They have said they will not go back. But perhaps after the engagement, they will go back.
And very finally, as a Labour Commission, How are you positioning yourself in the face of the IMF program, which may kick in should government negotiations with the fund succeed? There are many demands from Labour. As a commission, how are you positioning yourself to engage Labour going forward?
Well, at the moment, we will handle each case on its merit as and when they come before the commission. I'm unable to put a general rule or application to how we will handle cases when they come. You will handle them as they become considered on its merit.
Well, I'm grateful for your time. That's Ofosua Samoa. He's the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission. The University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, is also warning government ahead of its engagement with the International Monetary Fund that it will not tolerate any IMF conditionality that negatively affects the existing agreement between government and UTAG to improve their conditions of service. Now, the university teachers in a statement said, although it is ready to provide technical support, government must ensure that decisions taken will not be to the disadvantage of labor unions, especially UTAG. Let me bring you details of that statement that was released just this evening. And it says the University Teachers Association has cited the statement from the Ministry of Information with reference dated 1st July 2022 and signed by the Honorable Minister of Information, Kojo Manu, in which the President of Ghana has authorized the Minister of Finance to commence formal engagement with the International Monetary Fund, IMF. It continues by saying, typically, an IMF program may result in fiscal discipline, which aims at cutting down on excessive expenditures by the government and may help in government to focus on revenue generation to propel the economy to a path of steady growth. It is important to note that between 1966 and 2015, Ghana has been to the International Monetary Fund 16 times to seek support to address the country's economic problems. Indeed, within the Fourth Republic and over the last 30 years, this will be the 6th time the country is going to the IMF for support. This means that, on average, Ghana seeks the support of the IMF every 5 years to address its economic problems. Therefore, it is safe to deduce that resorting to the IMF all the time is not a sustainable way of dealing with our country's economic problems. Consequently, the country cannot continue to resort to the IMF for support every now and then. UTAG says, as a labor union that trains and produces the nation's workforce, including those involved with providing the requisite policies for economic growth and development in the country, UTAG would have preferred government to seek homegrown solutions to our economic woes. This is premised on our recent and pleasant history of previous engagement with the IMF, with us feel uneasy with government's decision given its potential negative impact on UTAG members and by extension public sector workers and its repercussion on the operations of public universities. The fifth paragraph says, as an association whose membership includes some of the best and world-class experts across all sectors of the economy, we think that the time has come to comprehensively diagnose the root causes of the recurrent problems that always lead to us to the IMF and proffer solutions that can permanently address the problems for inclusive and sustainable development in our country. UTAG believes we need homegrown policies developed by home-based experts and implemented by home-based practitioners. It then goes on to talk about why government must take its demands seriously. Let's go on to Zoom now and speak to UTAG President, Professor Solomon Nunu. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on Joy News Prime. So you urge government to take advantage of this IMF program to develop a comprehensive program that would deal with the structural issues of the economy. But then you end up warning government about your conditions of service. How exactly do you expect government to walk this tightrope?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. It's important that government at this time, whatever arrangement that government will come up with, do consider the plight of workers also at the same time. And that's the reason why we believe that at this point, we can help to profess solutions that would find a lasting solution to the problems that bedevil the country at the moment. So it's important that we do find solutions to those problems. Yes, we are now in a situation where it's clear that we are now going to the IMF, but we need to make sure that we come up with a comprehensive solution that will solve our problem.
But expenditure cut is a major component of any IMF program, and that definitely has its own repercussions, as you admit in your statement. Your conditions of service may be affected. We are not clear yet on what the program entails, but it may be affected. And so why is UTAG not positioning itself, given the knowledge it has of the economy and what the program is likely to look like, to help government achieve this program, the targets that will be set by the fund?
It's early days yet, and you will agree with me also in our statement that we have reiterated the fact that we are open to government and ready to assist government in coming up with solutions that will be lasting, because at this time we find ourselves in a position whereby we have gone to the IMF on countless occasions. However, with the number of times that we have gone to the IMF, the solutions that have come have not been able to stand the test of time. So the last time we were there was about 2015. 7 years down the line, we are back again. It means that whatever solution we are preferring may not be lasting, and that is why it's taking us to this point. And that's why we asked that let's sit and find homegrown solutions put together by our experts and then implemented by our experts. We believe that is the way to go, and we can go to IMF with a position that this is what we believe would help. And then we will all sit and judge with the IMF and come with a lasting solution.
And we'll come to the IMF solutions proper. But Professor Nunu, are you willing to, for instance, postpone payment of some of these allowances and conditions of service should government commit to pay later with timelines?
Whatever decision government would have to make that will affect public sector workers, it's important that they do sit with public sector workers to make decisions. However, if government should take unilateral decisions, then you'll expect that definitely we will all vehemently oppose to whatever decision that would come. So it's early days yet. We believe that whatever it is, we all need to sit and judge. And we believe that we need to take a central role in finding solutions to what is happening in the country at the moment. We've gone there time again. Let's find solutions that can stand the test of time.
Well, Prof, I want you to hold on for me briefly. Let's speak to a labor expert, Austin Game. He joins us also via Zoom. Mr. Game, I'm grateful that you could join us here on Joy News Prime. So labor is bent on demanding its pound of flesh, and some have even warned government going into next year, like UTAG. As government begins engagement with the IMF, what do you advise it should do in order to meet the expectations of labor and manage the situation?
Thank you. I'm grateful. I'm actually surprised that to date, if they've been having meetings behind the scene, that's fine. But there has to be conscious effort to ensure that inclusion that is already a part of the directive principles of state policy in the Constitution of Ghana do not become a figure of speech. It's very important that at this point in time, the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations take the center stage and get around it the ministries of Finance and that of Education, who are the big players in this matter now, to sit and lead the conversation, not argument, not debate. Because if you go for debate, there'll be a loser and there'll be a winner. They should have a simple brainstorming session and ensure that they all come out with consensus as to, it's about money. IMF programs are not new to Ghana, as have been alluded to by all of them. The comprehensive report from Senche is still lying there. I don't think that anybody is going to write anything extraordinary outside that, to be very honest with you, because it's quite a contemporary type of thing. And I would like to suggest strongly that the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations immediately, if I were to be them, to be honest with you, 24 hours, there will be a meeting so that they can have a good conversation about the subject matter on hand now and not assume that because IMF is coming, the people will just yield to it. There could be some way out. They may not pay cola because cola is very expensive. We all know. If they're going to pay it even for 1 year, what really it to mean is that we will be taking ourselves back into some level of inflation we will not tolerate in this country.
Okay.
So it's important that they have a meeting with them. Is there any other alternative? I think there is. Is there a risk if we pay it the way they want it paid? Yes, there is a risk. All these conversations should be held so that they will have a consensus going forward, because they are also leaders. Professor Solo and his colleagues are leaders. The UTAG, the teachers' unions, they are all leaders. Their members are pressurizing them. They need to have a comprehensive information to give to them. Something can be done. I strongly believe something can be done, but how it will be done is subject to the conversation.
But how about the other side, Labour, in these negotiations? How should they approach it, given the circumstance?
It depends on the employer. If they get to the meeting and you are very honest and open, and you speak not down them, which I believe my colleagues will not do, and they lay clear-cut things on the table. Look, we have received X amount of money so far. This is how we spend it. And they are all notable people. They know the union leaders today are not like yesterday. They know exactly what the figures are. They can read and write. Right. And so it's important that they are open, just as it was done in 2015. That's how come there was some serene atmosphere. I was present with UTAG people at home. I was present with them at Senchi. And I think that they are very notable people. They know exactly, the teachers know exactly what to do. They should go to the meeting. Government 100% open as an employer, not as government in partisan cloak, and ensure that every number is accounted for in that meeting. Then they can profile what kind of solution they will have to have. Perhaps they may go for some tax tweaking, because if you go for tax tweaking, you're not going to borrow money to pay interest and cost us more money. All this is available, so it's up to them to go to the table and have a conversation on it.
Mr. Game, I'm grateful that you could join us. Professor Nunu, just a final one on this. What form of technical support are you willing to provide government on this IMF program?
So we are looking at the economics level. Currently, what are the numbers saying, as Mr. Game is alluding to? So currently, we believe that we should sit at the round table. Let's look at let's look into the books. Let's see what is there, and then we find solutions to them. So economically speaking, what do we need to do? Our balance of payments. We read the budget that there's a budget deficit of about 37 billion Ghana cedis. We've done some spending cuts so far, what has come in, and what is the deficit that we need to account for. The last IMF program asked for about 5% in terms of the budget deficit. So what are we doing at the moment? So these are the numbers we need to talk to. Then we'll see how best to be able to find a lasting solution to this. We can't keep going round the circle and expect the same solution.
Thank you very much. That's Professor Solomon Nunu, his president of the University Teachers Association of Ghana. And talking about the IMF, Information Minister Kojo Manu says the aim is to get some $3 billion from the fund in at least 4 months. Organized labour is already agitating, alleging there could be a possible freeze on wages and employment, as was experienced in the past. Dr. Kwabena Otu is Director, Labour Research and Policy Institute at the TUC.
It's unfortunate. We think it's a tragic mistake on the part of government to unilaterally decide to engage the IMF, especially when since 2019 we have had a social partnership arrangement with government with very clear objectives in terms of our engagement as social partners. For us to be slapped with this decision without any consultation whatsoever from government, for us it's unfortunate, it's tragic, and we think that in itself signaled the end of the social partnership arrangement. And it clearly then tells us that at this point in time, we need to do everything we can to secure the interests of the Ghanaian worker and to ensure that on the 18th time, IMF programming does not impose unnecessary, needless hardship on Ghanaians and the working people of Ghana.
What's really the fear of the TUC, you'd say?
Come again?
What's really the fear of the TUC?
We know IMF programs. One, they do not offer any lasting, durable solutions to the country's problems. They will scratch on the edges of the problem. The fundamental problems of the economy will remain after 3-4 years of implementing. Second, they will immediately impose hardship. So we saw that in the last IMF Extended Credit Facility program, government could not employ into the public sector. Wages were frozen at their rare levels. And we think that this time, workers are already struggling too much, and it will be too much to ask them to sacrifice again.
Well, government has been given some clarity on what it intends to do as negotiations with the IMF takes off on Wednesday. Kojo Manu spoke to Amfa Pao on the probe.
Well, I don't know if you're able to quantify, because I haven't heard you give me in terms of what the economic cost actually is for us as a country, and is the IMF able to secure that cost for us as we go to them? So
you ask yourself, what do you need to show up your buffers, for example, in the central bank? You're looking somewhere around about $3 billion. Okay. And already you recall that the finance minister initially indicated that there were arrangements to get about $2 billion, up to about $2 billion, out of which there's $1 billion now available. Parliament has to approve for us to receive so that the cedi does not depreciate further, so that we have a show up of our reserves to be able to meet liquidity and debt servicing obligations, even as our domestic measures will get better. And then you are hoping to get about another outstanding $1 billion from elsewhere. You have the window to start talking to the fund to see. Today I saw a document that says that looking at Ghana's quota and our macroeconomic data, we could get anything, maybe around $2 billion to help shore up what we are looking for. But we must understand that there's no single bullet to the challenges we are dealing with. Okay. And so we need to rally around and draw from various sources, as I've mentioned, capital markets, the fund, domestic resource mobilization, which is in the end, because even when you borrow, you're going to have to service it with domestic resource mobilization. And the earlier we confront that, the better.
And we know government pushed through with the e-levy to avoid going for such a program. Will it scrap the levy now that the nation has gone for support from the IMF? Here's the information minister.
When you introduce a revenue measure, it takes a while for it to hit its optimal levels. Take VAT.
Then why not wait?
Well, but while you are waiting, my brother who has challenges with his national service allowance, I'm not sure, Mefa, you will tell him to wait. I'm not sure you tell our colleagues from TUC to wait. I'm not sure you tell our school feeding caterers who have not been paid to wait. You cannot wait when people are going through pain and difficulty like this. A responsible government will have to, while you are allowing the revenue measure to pick up and plug the loopholes, you have to take other measures that ensure that you can shore it up. That's why we've done two things. We've got $1 billion at the doorsteps of Parliament, and we're asking Parliament to approve it so that we can bring it in and take care of our obligations so that people's pain will be reduced. And then we've started engagement with the fund, looking for BOP support to show up currency, show up liquidity so that the pain will not be more. We can, support our people some more. And then at the same time, we are plugging the loopholes in some of the revenue measures that we designed and expected would deliver for us so that it will churn out and deliver better. I've heard people say the tax measure was not well structured. If it wasn't well structured, let's look at it and structure it well. But at the end of the day, we have to mobilize some more domestic resources to respond, and we can.
The Joy Research Desk has been digging deep on the IMF program, or Ghana's IMF bailout, since 1999. And Isaac Kofi, a data analyst with the desk, joins me in the studio with some interesting findings. Kofi, let's start first of all with the various years that Ghana has been to the IMF.
Right, and so Fourth Republic, 4 IMF bailouts, and the 5th one is beckoning. So we had the first one, 1999. And as you can see, 2003, we had our second in the Fourth Republic. We also had one in 2009, and the most recent one being 2015. And we are yet to have one in 2022 this year. Now, we've also been looking at the various governments, starting with that of former President Jerry John Rawlings. Under his government, the finance minister then was Kwame Pepra. Kwame Pepra.
At the time we headed to
exactly,
the IMF.
they were the first to head to the IMF in the Fourth Republic, and the amount they were able to rake in then was $303 million for Ghana in the first, bailout in the Fourth Republic. Then we had our second IMF bailout in the Fourth Republic under the government of former President John Agyekum Kufuor, and the finance minister then was Yao Osafo-Maafo, who some time ago was the senior minister. He was the finance minister.
Who was part of the economic management team as well.
Yeah, he was the finance minister then when we had our second program, bailout program under the IMF in the Fourth Republic. And they were able to bring to Ghana an amount of $444.7 million in 2000.
So that's
$244.7 million in 2003. That's under President Agyekum Kufuor. Now we have President John Evans Atamios, and his former finance minister was Kwabena Dufour. His finance minister was Kwabena Dufour, and they were able to bring in $513.9 million from the IMF as bailout in 2009. And we have the most recent one being John Dramani Mahama and former finance minister Setekwe, and they rigged in $900 million for government in 2015, and we exited this program somewhere in 2019. Now, if you combine all these bailouts, that should give you somewhat an amount of $1.96 million, and this is less than the amounts we've received as COVID support in 2019, which is about $2.5 billion, dollars in 2020. So we asked ourselves, and as a government from 1999, IMF bailout is around 1.96 billion Ghana cedis. COVID support for 2020 alone is around 2.5 billion Ghana cedis, which is more than what we received from IMF since 1999.
So the debate continues. Kofi, thank you very much. And of course, you've heard UTAG say this is not the solution for us. They think that we need some homegrown solutions. But again, the issue about discipline when it comes to the fiscal
key on the table. Yeah.
Exactly. That is why sometimes we need to be policed by the IMF. But thank you very much. Let's do some other stories now. And looming water crisis, shortage in Accra and part of the central region as encroachers take over the green belt protecting the Weija Lake and the Weija treatment plant. Coming up here on Join This Prime.
I'm talking about encroachment. It has been for decades. Ghana Water at some point moved in for demolition, and same people have come in there again. I have also moved in there for some demolition some years back.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. There's a looming water shortage in Accra and part of the central region as encroachers take over the green belt protecting the Weija Lake and the Weija water treatment plant. The Ghana Water Company Limited had earlier said the increase in human activities in the buffer zone of the lake, including the illegal sand mining and development of estates, were threatening its ability to treat the water. It took a visit by the Sanitation and Water Resources Minister, Cecilia Abnadapa, to stop the illegal sand mining activities. But the encroachments persist, and the water source for millions of people is at stake now. Nkoranza visited the area for this week's edition of Joy in My Community, and our report.
So the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, the Honorable Cecilia Abnadapa, led a task force right around here to stop what turned out to be illegal sand winning just along the buffer zone of the Weija water treatment plant. Well, just months on, the destruction that had been caused by these illegal miners is still reeling and impacting the environment. What's more, encroachment on the buffer just along the Weija River also continues in earnest. Mr. Moses, over Moses, owner. Moses is one of the residents just around here going to talk to us about the situation. Fine.
Like 10 years.
10 years.
Weija town, main town.
Main town, down.
Down.
Okay.
Main town.
Okay, so when I knew about Naboy, be mean of you, be in a coach.
I mean,
Say no to Mina Cafe.
Aquachuni.
Akebachuni, men with Manaka.
Aqua flow concrete.
Okay, when you. About flow when you. Okay. Ne telling better night.
Oh, na chagavo.
Okay.
Tabwa
Na acha gavel in your BNA. Okay.
Ten your men in nine.
Okay. E wo ni acha back na acha kefe ke ya. Te afi den bo wa na bia.
Oh, akete ya amejote.
The MC for Weija, Patrick Kumo, has been reacting to this development. He says a task force will be dispatched to earmark the illegal buildings for demolition.
I mean, this issue has been there for decades.
Exactly why I'm surprised you're saying you want to listen to Ghana Water Company.
No, it's been there. I'm talking about encroachment. It has been for decades. Ghana Water at some point moved in for demolition. And same people have come in there again. I have also moved in for some demolition some years back. But then now they are moving a bit closer to the...
Are we going to move into areas, of course, encroaching a buffer zone, a Ramsar site and all of that? Those must be criminal. Are we looking at arresting, prosecuting? Because if demolition has not worked, I mean, you've just said that demolition has been done once, twice. It doesn't seem to have solved the problem.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. We are now being pushed to the point where certain individuals will have to be picked up to face the law. All right, and I think when that clarification is made between the Ghana Water and the STU, then of course we know where we are taking it from. If you look at the entire Weija area, most of the areas that have been encroached on with extension of electricity and power falls under the Ghana Water enclave.
Let's bring in the communications manager for the Ghana Water Company Limited, Stanley Mate, for more on this. Thank you, Mr. Mate, for joining us. I know that you do some monitoring around this area. In fact, you're very familiar with it. But has this new development of encroachment come to your attention? Mr. Mate, you have to unmute your device so we can hear you.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Yeah, we are aware of the situation and we are working with the District Assembly to enable us to stop the encroachment in that area. You know, it is not within our purview to stop people from developing areas that they have to, or where they are developing. So it is a mandate of the District Assembly. So we can only liaise with them and have them stop the development in that area. So we are in touch with them, and we hope that they'll see the seriousness of what we are talking about, and then ensure that the development in that area will have to cease. So
Patrick Kumo, who is the MC, spoke to my colleague Manuel Cranton and says that they are moving in to earmark those areas for demolition. Once you say you are dealing with them, you're working with them, is this something you are aware of? Do you know of timelines and what your role will be post the demolition, for instance?
Yeah, that is the information they have given us, that they are going to move in and to stop the encroachment. So we are waiting on them. And like I said, we don't have the mandate. It is not within our jurisdiction to be demolishing unauthorized structures. It is with District Assembly, so we can only liaise with them so they put an end to it. And we hope that this time we'll see some serious action. So we are hoping, and we keep reminding them every time. So hearing the municipal chief executive, we have some assurance now that we'll see some action within the very near future.
But Mr. Mate, explain to us, what is the real implication of this situation on your operations?
Okay, so now they are removing almost the vegetation around that area that is supposed to give the river body some cover So they're cutting down the trees, and then with a little grass that will stop soil erosion from silting the river body are also being exposed. So anytime there are rains, it will just wash off the topsoil, and then it will silt the river body. So you may see the surface and see water, but the depth will be very low, such that anytime we have severe sunshine, then we could see some fast evaporation of the river body. So we may not have the volumes that we may expect. We may not have the volumes that may be adequate for us to treat throughout the year. So it's quite a dangerous situation. Apart from that, if we have to allow those structures to be completed and for people to move in, there's a likelihood that they are all going to divert their waste, their sewage and waste into the river body, and then that will pollute the river body the more, which means that we may have to use more chemicals to enable us treat the water. Then it makes cost of production very high. We have been very serious about for the pollution of our river bodies, and this shouldn't add up to our woes currently.
Mr. Martin, thank you very much for joining us here on Johnny's Prime. He is the communications manager for the Ghana Water Company Limited. So other stories now. Family of Albert Donko, slain Nkoranza trader, demands independent autopsy. Now, the family of a 28-year-old trader and footballer allegedly picked from his home and killed by the police at Nkoranza are demanding an independent autopsy outside police influence. Now, they say it would only accept they would only accept an autopsy report from the independent pathologist outside the police hospital. Spokesperson Reverend Dr. Matthias Sarkodie says the family has lost trust in the police, adding the service cannot act as a player and referee in its own case. Ohime Interior of our security desk reports.
The death of Albert Kwesi Donko, a digital satellite installer, said to have been picked from his Kasejan family house at Nkoranza on April 25, 2022 by police, sparked violence among the youth of Nkoranza. A clash between the youth and police led to the death of a final year student of the Nkoranza, with others sustaining various degrees of injuries. The body of Albert has since been kept at the police hospital morgue, but an autopsy on Victor Usu has been completed. The family says they are resisting attempts by police to coerce them into witnessing an autopsy on their relative, saying the move will not generate any credible results. Reverend Dr. Matthias Sarkodie speaks for the family.
We don't trust the police. From the onset, the way they've dealt with the family, we cannot trust them and we cannot be dealing with them. The report they have given about the guy, some of your personnel were around. When the incident occurred, they saw what happened. They have video and information about it. Look at the results they've given about this Kojo Manu guy. So we don't trust the police. And we believe an independent body or independent pathologist will be able to give us a credible result. But we don't trust the police, and for that matter, we will not allow them to touch the body. If they want to touch it, they can touch it. We have no problem. We will reject the body and give it to them. And whatever they want to do with the body, they should do it. They came for him alive in the house. If that is what they want to do to him, so they should do whatever they like with the body. We have no problem. At an appropriate time, we will sue them to get justice for Albert. So that is what the family is saying. We are not ready for any police pathologist.
And that's our show for today. Many thanks for your company. You can log on to myjournline.com. We have a lot more for you there. Please read them. My name is Ernest Kojo Manu. Up next is Prime Business with Charles Aite. Stay tuned in.